Hello everyone and welcome back to this episode of Pixel Journey. This is kind of exciting because this is the first time I have a video that is somewhat sponsored by something. So this episode is all about the indie D&D board game style adventure called Baladins. And this game was actually given to me by Minimap. One quick thing about Minimap is they are a free to sign up for documentation site for video games. You can keep your backlog and all that stuff on there. And so yeah, I do keep my link to Minimap down in the description below if you want to check out some more of my reviews and even a more kind of in-depth review even of Baladins on there. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. So I first saw Baladins in the Nintendo Direct, and I thought it was really cute. And when I first got a chance to play it, I was very confused. So I didn't quite know what was going on. So in a quick, short and sweet summary, you play as one of 5 different types of Baladins, and you have an allotted movement number and action point number. And you get to spend those in 6 turns before you are sucked into a time loop by a time-eating dragon called 𝕬𝕬𝕣𝕖. So essentially, you need to figure out how to stop 𝕬𝕬𝕣𝕖 while in these time loops, while helping a bunch of people in these 4 cities that you can explore. So at first, it was a bit of a learning curve on figuring out how to actually go about playing the game, because I was a bit confused because at the end of your 6 turns, you face 𝕬𝕬𝕣𝕖 again, and he actually takes all of your items, and you are only left with 1. You can take 1 back, and that is something that you can take into future time loops. Now, the cool thing is there's 5 different types of Baladins, and you can have a unique item on each one. And so that's kind of useful if you have something that you think, oh, this might be important for one of the quest lines, but I'm not quite sure what to do with it, and you don't want to just carry it around. You can just swap to a different Baladin, and when you figure out later what that item's for, you can go back to that Baladin and try and finish your quest line. So that was really cool, fun aspect. And one thing that I was not expecting that is really cool because you're in a time loop, so it works perfectly, is all of your quests, except for a very small handful or stuff related to the direct storyline for trying to combat 𝕬𝕬𝕣𝕖, they will have 2 to about 4, 5 maybe different endings. And they are both positive and negative endings. So I thought that was really cool. And whenever 𝕬𝕬𝕣𝕖 will eat an item from one of those endings, he'll actually give some input on what happened, and he'll even be like, oh, this item had many good memories, or oh, this item is full of sadness. So it was just really cool. It felt very cozy, and mainly that was because for half of my playthrough I did play on the Steam Deck, which I found very enjoyable. I played almost 20 hours total, and I would say that was split pretty evenly between my PC and my Steam Deck. So breaking down the gameplay a bit more, like I said, you will have movement points and action points. They, for the most part, are the same between Baladins, but there's some that might have more. On average, you'll have about 4 of each, and you can get in-game held items that can increase or decrease both of those stats. But essentially, the quests will break down to going to different places, learning some things, talking to people, and either talking to other people or bringing items to other people. And probably the more challenging aspect, if you're going for a 100% for all of these quests, or want to maybe knock out like a certain quest, but you can't figure out why because you can't figure out where you're supposed to go, you might be needing what I've been calling random encounters. So if you have ever played a Pokemon game, you know sometimes you just have to roam around and you'll just find a Pokemon, and that's a random encounter. They have a similar system in Baladin. So roaming around each of the city, for the most part, I've found it pretty consistently, you will hit 1 random encounter each turn that you have, and you will just get a random little encounter from a different character, some random characters. Some you can only find in these types of encounters, but these will help 9 out of 10 times help progress one of the events. I will say I lost count of how much time I spent just wandering around and hoping I got the right random encounter. I did spend a number of time loops doing that, which was probably the most boring part of the game, but it was still fun because you would sometimes get a different one, try and find out where that one goes. It's very puzzle heavy for a lot of these things, and it makes you think, and you have to really remember where everything is. And some of them, even depending on where you need to go to get an item to a person, you will have to use a certain Baladin, because like D&D, they all have stats. So they have stuff like physique, they have destruction, they have knowledge, they have a bunch of different stats, and that is the main differentiation between all 5 of the Baladins that you can choose. And so there are certainly some to where you will need to have your pyro for a destruction challenge that you need to do in order to get an item. So this game looks very easy, cozy, simple on the outside, but when you really start to get into it, it actually takes some strategy and planning. It took a lot of thought for me to get through a lot of these puzzles, and it's really addicting. I found myself thinking at work, out with friends, I was stuck on this one thing. I wonder if I can do this to get this. And you will just find yourself thinking about all the different ways that you can try and solve these different puzzles. For one, you get a gargoyle and you need to figure out 4 ways to help this gargoyle. And that, I had gotten 3 and I needed the 4th one. I was thinking about what I could do with that gargoyle for so long. And it's so satisfying when you check it off. And when you get all of the endings complete, you'll get a little ribbon on that one. It's so satisfying. That makes you want to go for 100% completion on this. And I do think I will probably go back and try and knock out some more, because at this moment in time, I spent almost 20 hours in about a few days just grinding out as many as I can, because I thought that that's what you need to do, and I wasn't quite sure where the main story was going. So I just tried to do all of that. But turns out you do need to do as many as you can for the main storyline. So one of the main things that caught my attention was definitely the art style, so a quick little section solely for the art style. The game is kind of brilliant. So they take this cute round 3D environmental style for all the backgrounds, any of the places that you go, but they have almost this Paper Mario-esque character design to where your characters are flat and they have this paper outline. And that's not just for your Baladins, that's for all of the NPCs. And if you look closely into the background, any animal that is roaming in the environment is also the same art style. The colors are these wonderful, bright, but not overly saturated, more on the pastel side of things. And it makes everything very warm and welcoming. And it's so satisfying to just look around the world, because the level of detail that the devs put into this game is kind of immaculate. If you go further enough onto the side, you'll actually see that this world is set up in a little box that is on the table. You are literally playing in a board game. So I would just say, appreciate the art style and look around. Look in the caves, look in the farm, look at all those, because there's little tiny animals. My favorite's the little bat. You can find those in the caves. But there's just such a level of detail for the art, the humor, all of the character lines. There was so much love put into this game, and I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about it so far, and I'm hoping that's just because it was only recently released. Now, something that I wasn't expecting to be such high quality was the sound design. A lot of the time, sound design can kind of go out the window, but it certainly didn't for Baladins. Not only does the normal background music just sound perfect for a D&D adventure, but also if you listen closely, each Baladin has their own unique sound when moving spaces. The sound effects feel perfectly in place, and it really helps set the mood for this game, the atmosphere that it is trying to establish. I think all of the elements come together perfectly. It is the perfect blend of so many different types of things into this perfect pick up and play type of game. You can play it single player, you can play it with friends, and I'm excited once some of my friends get it to try and do that multiplayer. So the nice aspect about a pick up and play type game like Baladins is you can stay on it for 3 hours, or you can stay on it for like 3 minutes. So since it is entirely invested in this time loop mechanic, it will actually have a pop-up at the end of each run with 𝕬𝕬𝕗 and ask you, hey, you've just finished this time loop. Do you want to quit or do you want to go again? And so it kind of installs the perfect little stopping points after each run, so you don't ever feel like you're getting burnt out. Now, some tips that I have learned while playing through Baladins on my own is really simple, like don't try and overdo anything in a single time loop. I typically try to aim for doing one specific quest, and that is my entire sole focus for that run. If I finish it early, I will kind of go around and try and find some random encounters, or maybe talk to people to make another quest available, and then try and plan ahead for the next run. Now, I never try and instigate 2 different quests at the same time, due to the fact that it could give me multiple items connected to that quest, and I'm going to be very sad at the end of that time loop if I have 2 really important items, because I'm only going to be able to keep 1. Trust me, I made the mistake early on in my run by getting 2 important items that I wanted to keep, but having to give 1 to 𝕬𝕬𝕗, and then I was very sad trying to get it again because I had to get a random encounter for it. So don't overdo anything, don't try and overexert your little Baladin, because you can only move on average, I found like 24 moves, because usually it's 6x4 with give or take time stuff. So I would definitely say focus on the quests, focus on the people in your towns, because this is very much a character driven game rather than a story of trying to defeat the time eating dragon type game. That is how I was picturing it. I'm just like, oh, I'm doing these side missions and I'm like getting distracted. I should be focusing on defeating the dragon. But it actually turns out that the reason that you're helping all these people, and that is such a big focus on all that, is because the overarching message of the game is help bring people together. That is the whole reason. The very beginning was you were setting up a festival to have the people of all these cities come gather and be friendly with each other. So take time and invest in those people that you were helping. So I think that this is really a kind of perfect game to, personally, I prefer playing on the Steam Deck, but play wherever you can get it. To play over a weekend, it is the perfect just one more loop type of game. And I have been recommending this to all of my friends. I have a lot of friends who like D&D style games. I have some who play Baldur's Gate 3. I have some who are addicted to Final Fantasy 14 online. And I've shown them some gameplay. I've streamed it to them on Discord. They've come and watched it here in my place, and they say that it looks amazing and they're actually really excited to get it. I think most of them have put it on their Steam wishlist. This is a game that I really feel like if you like tabletop feeling games, you like D&D style games, but maybe a smaller type of adventure compared to, say, a Baldur's Gate 3, this can be a great game. It can be a good, like, cozy game to relax with. It can be something that maybe you want to maybe try and get into more D&D style games. It can be a great stepping stone. But I think that this is just an amazing game, and I'm so happy that I was able to play it. I want to say one more thank you to Minimap, because I would not have gotten this without them giving me the key, so thank you once again. But it's very much a puzzle solving game with solving the different endings compared to a kind of adventure game to where you're going through like an RPG style. So be aware of that. You're not going to be going to different lands and like doing like an RPG, but it is, if you like puzzles, this is perfect. But I do believe that is it for today. I really liked this game. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Minimap, where I'm keeping all of my scores. So once again, if you want to see more of a kind of sectional breakdown of my thoughts, I do have a link to my Minimap account down in the description below. I'll have a link to my blog site where I have kind of a review post about this game if you want to read some more. I would really appreciate that. But yeah, so that's going to be all for today. If you've played Baladins, let me know what your experience was in the comments. Did you like it? How many hours did you put into it? I'm very curious. I feel like this could be a game that you can get like 15 hours or you can get 30. I would love to know that. Tell me like your favorite like quest line, because I know I definitely have a favorite and it's definitely the gargoyle. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know any suggestions you want for future game reviews. But that's going to be all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you had some fun and I hope to see you again soon. Bye guys.